Yeah. All right, everybody. Good evening, one and all. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock sharp. We have 1, 2 present, so quorum is established. It goes without saying that the special meeting, and the purpose of this meeting is to talk specifically and exclusively about the patio masonry envelope project. We do have some guests here, and I'll have them introduce themselves just immediately. So both for, the board and then eventually for the open forum part. Our discussion tonight only to that project and not any other business. So that is our statement of purpose for tonight. And so let's just get right into it. So we have a few people. Chris, there you go. Okay. A few people here, so I'll just allow them to introduce themselves, starting over with Chris and going down the line here, who you are, where you're from, what role in the process.
Chris Kelly, I'm with Thomas Downey Limited Consulting Engineers. And we basically provided the design for this work and bid it out, which then leads over to Craig here.
Hi, I'm Craig Abel with CA Lindman. I'm the Vice President of Operations. I've been working with our estimating team on the bid, and I'm currently working with management board and whoever else is reviewing the contract. And we've transitioned the project from estimating to operations. And
Director of Operations is on the call as well. She wasn't able to make it tonight either. Unfortunately, I apologize for that.
All right. Is there anyone on Zoom that wants to say hello from our the CA team CA Lindman? All right. So, folks, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking the time. I mean, we really wanted to have this be not a presentation necessarily, because I know Chris, gave us some of that last time. We really wanted to have a chance to talk about just Q&A. I mean, starting off from the board, and then, there will be a resident forum. So, the board questions will likely be technical and or financial. I would imagine that probably the resident forum maybe, on function and aesthetic and other things that are relevant to the end user. But with that being said, I'd like to open it up to my board colleagues for questions, either technical or financial, to our bidding team.
Yeah, so reading your proposal here, this is to you, Chris.
Sure.
There's a lot of engineering in this. Don't get me wrong, we're probably gonna need to reach back for engineering. But the PM, are you gonna be on site 5 days a week, every workday, or only 3 days a week like this proposal?
So
our PM is.
yeah, so so project management, they're two separate
I agree.
two separate jobs. There's construction administration, which is essentially the third party oversight, making sure that basically the work is done as per specifications. And then the project management is the logistical side of essentially the operation side, and that's where CA Lindman handles that.
Tracking, so that's for the manufacturing piece, and then there's a coordination piece, logistic piece of getting it here and getting it installed.
Right, that's all contractor side.
But then on here on site, this doesn't have a PM on site. This has engineers available to come out. I know you guys are located in Old Town, so maybe the traffic isn't that bad because we're paying for transit too. But I don't know that we need this much engineering. I think we need more project management on site.
So I guess I think it's probably a semantical thing. It's So I guess I'll ask specifically, what in terms of, what is project management, and like, how are you defining project management?
Somebody who's here understanding what condos and units can be worked on that day. What's the order of operations of getting said window, said door up to the proper place, making sure it's done, making sure the person's going in, doing the checklist, making sure everything's installed right, coordinating with the people. They're gonna come in and spackle drywall and paint the walls and do the things, and somebody who's running that and monitoring that on a daily basis.
That would fall under us, the contractor. We'll have a full-time foreman here and a superintendent here for the majority of every day.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be probably 4 or 5 swing stages with foreman, managing that team. And then the superintendent and foreman will be working with the window installation crew to make sure everything is going as we as we scheduled. And normally we would have a 2-week progress meeting with the engineer on site, with the property manager and whoever else feels like joining. But between Anthony, High Rise, and our team will have a master schedule, and then every 2 weeks we'll kind of update that schedule, and you'll know exactly what tier we're working on, which tier we're going to next, and that kind of thing.
Perfect. And then, so this is reach back for engineering support in the event we need it, not that it's expected to. Cause it's written in pretty vague contract language where, hey, if you need a senior one, it's this rate. If you need a middle rate, you need this one, junior one, this one, and it's as needed, likely coming out 3 times a week.
Right.
Okay.
And it's typical, I mean, it's typical to this kind of project, really any large project. I mean, just as waypoints are reached, the contractor typically, will reach out to us and say, hey, listen, we've opened up. We're ready to put in the through wall flashing, and, on this tier, please come out and look at it, make sure it's ready, before we close it up. And we look at it, we document it. We might say, hey, you need to do, throw out something, an engineering thing, your end dams aren't sealed properly here. Then, we look at it, we sign off on it, they close it up, next step. So it's the essentially quality assurance, oversight. Creation of punch lists, that's part of it.
I'd say on the front end of things will be all the submittals, the shop drawings from the windows.
Permit drawing.
Shop drawings have to be approved by somebody to release the order.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got no issue with the front
Yeah.
matter. That's pretty standard as far as
Yeah.
the front.
Okay.
I feel like I'm hogging the time, so I'll shut up, but I might come back with more.
Sure.
Other questions? Financial, technical?
I guess more, I know I'm treasurer, but I have more of an operational question. Kind of from a flow of work, so get the drawings done, get the permits and stuff like that. But once we get to the day-to-day thing, from, okay, your tier is like 2 weeks out, 4 weeks out, whatever, what's kind of like the alert cycle, like you're on the radar screen, what is the expectation? On prep, what's the unit's responsibility, what's your responsibility, what's the day in the life of the 2 days, the 1 day, the 3 days, you're making my unit, in a better state at the end. I won't say it's hell in the middle, but whatever, but what's the day in the life for the kind of from the, hey, you're a month out to it's 3 days after the punch list or whatever.
So there's a lot rolled up in
Yeah, but
that
it's
question.
like, it's like, what's the life for
Sure.
our residents, right? What's our experience gonna be?
Well, for a project like this, there is a long lead time. Lead time is how long it takes to get the material. So one, where we're not gonna start early, because that will inconvenience you more. So our plan is to, once we get under contract, have a pre-construction meeting, work out all those things. So the first thing we'll figure out is how we want to flow around the building. If it's drop 1 through 46, do we wanna, for some reason, start or stop at a certain place? So once we establish what the drop schedule is, then we can establish a starting point. And then we can work with Melina on what the notice is. For the big picture thing, we're thinking we might not you might not see us at the site till maybe late May or June.
Okay,
So we definitely have a month and a half or even 2 months to start. I think the earliest we're thinking we'll have windows is maybe late July.
okay,
So we'd probably like to start in June because there's the transom pad panels to do the work at first. We have to get the transom panels out of the way before the windows come in. So we'll.
convert that to English.
Well, my understanding is the transoms are made of transite, which is a low level of an asbestos containing
All right,
material. The transom material, a transom is above the sliding door. So the panel above the sliding door has to be abated by a special contractor. So we're gonna mobilize first and get the transoms removed.
from above all the sliding doors.
Right, and we're not gonna start that until the sliding doors are pretty much in transit. So as soon as we start, we can continue with
So from a number of times you're coming to my unit,
our goal is to make that one time.
but that one time is also gonna include doing all the windows while you're there?
It'll happen, over about a week or two's period of time.
I guess that's what I'm trying to, get the concept of operations or your sequence of operations or however you wanna think about it. You're talking about taking the transoms off, great, if that's free, this is like, are you gonna go around and do 204 or whatever it is transoms, and then you're gonna come back and do the by tier to actually do the window replacement? Or are you gonna, the first thing you do when you come to my unit is take the transom off? And then you're gonna knock all my window, pop my windows out, pop the new ones in or whatever. So I guess that's what I'm really trying to figure out is, when you come to my unit, is it you're there for 3 days, or is it you're gonna come to my unit, take the transom out, and then I won't see you again for another month? And then you'll come back through and then start popping windows out and in.
So the detail operation, we'll start to do as much as we can from the outside. Our mobilization of swing stages will be a week or two, and we won't be inside. So we'll start from the outside. We'll get our swing stages hung. We'll do some initial surveys. We'll document the existing condition of the surrounding area. Then the transoms will come out from the outside as well. So again, no convenience. We will ask you and try to block off your doors so they're not used while our swing stage is there. So there'll be 4 or 5 drops that will, so sort of block off, no exterior access for the residents for 2 or 3 weeks while we're doing those drops.
So if I may, so is there anything that we need to do with our patio furniture during that 4 or 5 days?
We would request there be access to the door. So if it's, full of stuff, then yeah, we would need some of the personal belongings.
Yeah, just removal of obstructions of the work area, essentially.
Clarify that at some point, please.
Well,
Like,
there's
do
gonna
I
be
take
people
my
with,
grill and just shift it 2 feet away from the door? Do I need to get my grill off the patio? Do I need to move my furniture into my unit? Or do I just make sure that you have, 2 foot, 5 foot, whatever egress around the door? I'm asking these questions because I know somebody out there is thinking these
Sure.
questions, so.
well, this is not a balcony job
Yeah.
and we're not doing the coatings or
Right,
anything.
right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I can't speak to the abatement portion of the scope on what
Sure.
they'll need for clearance, because we're not responsible for that portion, but for the actual replacement process, we really have to get through our measuring to assess how large are these balconies, how much area do we have to work with? We might be able to handle this on a case by case basis, say, hey, if you have a minimal amount of furniture, move it to this corner. But we also have to define where is the swing stage going to be at that point in time. So there's a lot of logistical, items that need to be defined here as we progress through the coming weeks. But
Yeah.
that will be provided, I think, to you all in advance. It's something that we typically like to tailor specific to a property after we do our data, gathering, our on-site field measuring. We look at things like that. Are all the balconies packed with things? It might just be a case by case basis. And if there's a question, we can look at a photo. Do I have to move this? that can come through the construction team. We can personally review that and.
I'm not a flower person, but I know some of my neighbors are
That's what I was gonna
flower
say, yeah.
people. And what I'm more worried about is, it's really easy for me to roll my grill. And by the way, we're only allowed to have camper size grills, so it's not like good because shift pieces of furniture, minor, a lot of us can do that. Other people have health issues, we need to work with our neighbors to help with that. I'm more worried about the people that have that row of flower pots.
Yeah.
And that becomes a little bit more cumbersome and bulky, and we're hitting in the peak of the season when you're talking May, July, May through August or September. So I'm kind of like, warning, community, don't have extra flowers this year. Because they're probably gonna be bumped or whatever while they're out there, just saying to the team. So that's more like where I'm coming from, is like, how's it gonna, for those neighbors, some of us don't have a lot, you can look from outside. There's not many people that have a lot of clutter.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see a ton when I pulled up either. So for starters, the work's gonna be mostly from the outside. When the windows and doors are going in, that is back and forth. So once the window is replaced, and I think their plan is to get about 6 or 8 openings per day. So if it's just a single tier of windows, that tier might only take 2 or 3 days to get the wet windows alone in. If it's a tier with multiple windows, multiple doors, it might take up to 2 weeks. It's gonna vary completely, just based on tier by tier and the configurations and how many doors and windows are on that actual tier.
The other real big question we've had from a resident's experience is what's going on inside my unit. And how much space you're gonna need inside my unit, how much I'm gonna have to move my furniture around. There's already, some concern, but we know it's a necessity about getting the window coverings out of the way. But more the question mark is the, how much I've got to disrupt my furniture flow or whatever.
Our scope after the windows are in, it does include just wrapping new wood trim around the window. So we would say if there's furniture within 2 or 3 feet, we would just ask it to be either pulled off the wall or slid over on the wall. So obviously we don't want to be near somebody's valuables or wall hangings or china cabinet or anything like that. So and again, just like the balconies, it's gonna vary by the person. Some people might have more, china kind of pieces, and some people might just have nothing in front of their door. It's gonna vary.
But in general, you're talking about, to follow up on that, just, a reasonable amount of space, several feet worth of space in
Yes.
all directions of where someone would be working. And so my follow-up to that is, this won't come up a lot, but I know I've been in at least one unit where it is, where over the years, an owner or a previous owner has built like built-in cabinets and whatnot that have substantially affected, that, and, could you speak a little bit to that? It may not be more than 3 or 4 units in the entire building, as far as I know, but what's the plan on that sort of thing?
That was definitely in the survey. There's a picture of the built-in. To be honest, we're probably gonna have to, we might have to deconstruct an area. I mean, if it's a whole wall, maybe not, but it is on both sides of the door, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's from memory, the ones well, there's one particularly unique issue with cabinetry and a granite countertop that comes up above a window, so I know that's gonna need to be
Okay.
addressed. Most of the built-ins that I recall stop short of the existing interior window frames, so
Okay.
should be able to remove it, remove the window and just kind of modify the new trim to, rip it down. So most of them should be doable, but there are gonna be some that are gonna be.
Granite countertop sounds, yeah.
Yes, there are a couple, that one, and then a couple others, there's some unique wall finishes. So there's a handful of tricky ones, that I'm sure, as you guys do your field measurements, you'll make
Yeah,
note
I
of.
think that's kind of, something that we can address too. When we have these, unique conditions for interior finishes and things like that, you know, we'd like to certainly access those units. See what we can do to work around things together, both for our, you know, the replacement scope itself and then the finishing scope. Like Craig had mentioned, we might need a little bit more room than that 2 to 3 feet, just because it's much heavier construction. I mean, I think we're bringing everything up from the outside, working off the swing stages, but you see some of the sizes of these openings. We need usually about 5 feet in front of the left and right when we collapse frames, this and that. Safe is better, I'm sorry, but you know, we'll also, together, we have a document that we'll provide to Lindman that they can also add to and share with you guys for preparations for the window replacement portion, the invasive part. Because we're sympathetic to what we're in right now. We've done a lot of occupied buildings in the area. One locally you might know of is like Watergate Landmark. We did all 4 towers there for all the window replacement. So we do specialize in occupied buildings. We've perfected the process in that regard. So we have a very detailed document for preparation, both in advance of us getting there and then what to expect post window replacement as well. And then I'm sure there would be some more language in there for the interior finish work that would go on as well. And it's very detailed again. It goes down to if we see take the paintings off the walls that might be in the room because there's going to be some wind. A lamp that might be light that has a shade on, take the shade off, move it to a different room. So it's that length of preparation where we have the language in there. So we want to make you as informed as possible. So there's no surprises, or at least minimize the amount of surprise as much as possible. In addition to, you know, our superintendent and project manager, and if Carrie's on now, she can weigh in on this, but we do a lot of documentation in advance. And if there's any question, we are always willing to accept a photo and, you know, handle things on a case by case basis. If these built-ins are an example of that.
Okay.
So,
Chris, can I ask a question? When you were talking about abatement, was that from the outside or from the inside?
It's from the outside.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to worry about possibly, you know, being exposed to, did you say it was asbestos?
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's sort of on the backside of the duct chase here. So I mean, we couldn't do it from the inside. It basically is the backside of that bulkhead, that box up at the ceiling.
Okay, and for residents that have pets, how do you all, I guess, like, let's say for the Watergate, how do you handle that?
they should be removed from the unit for the duration of construction,
From the
for at
unit.
least our scope, yeah, or crated.
Great.
The reason I say that is because, if there's a room, I have dogs, I'm a pet guy, so, I know it's hard to say, put them in a room. It would probably be best, it's going to be loud, you're going to hear a lot of drilling, things like that, because we are installing a new window that same day. We may have hammer drill, we may have wood, sawzalls, things like that, really kind of disturbs a pet.
Yeah.
Aluminum sounds, high
Yeah.
screeching, metal
So-
cutting, that kind of thing.
If you're comfortable with putting, you know, a pet, sometimes people have elderly deaf dogs. And they're fine with that. The fact there's a lot of people and personnel within your unit that are visible to, we are in condos, so you can only go so far from a window and door opening. We recommend just maybe having them out for the day, putting them in a daycare, have them stay with a friend or family member for the day, at least for our scope that I can speak to.
I think you're answering well.
I can say from experience from living in a previous place, I have a cat who was exposed to out of what I thought was going to be relatively low levels of noise, and it was much louder, and she unfortunately sort of has a issue with it, 10 years later. So it does really, so I would, just from personal experience, if it's at all possible, I would say remove them. Don't assume that they're gonna be able to hide in the corner because they might just be getting freaked out by the noise, and so it happens. I have a question about the whole, which is, I want to make sure that we are communicating, we're understanding, and then we're communicating effectively, which is, you mentioned that for some of the larger units, it could take, up to 2 weeks. Now, is the goal always to end the day without there being, unless you can avoid it, massive amounts of wood covering? I mean, or is there gonna be a time where a unit has pieces of wood over the holes for, days at a time?
I took that differently. I
Okay.
took it as he
It
was
won't be
saying,
days.
tiers could go in a couple of days. Some of the larger ones might take 2 weeks.
Okay.
To complete the tier.
The tier.
Right, but,
Oh, okay.
our intent is to
Understood.
take out and replace in the same day.
Got it. Okay, understood. I was mistaking the tier,
Yeah.
the scope there, the tier versus, I was like,
And if,
wait a second, 2 weeks for a unit sounds a lot.
if it is a unit that spreads over, 2 tiers, if you guys want us to just do one at a time, for example, if furniture needs to move from one area into a spare bedroom or something, that's, we're flexible. We haven't ironed it out, and we're not gonna, for lack of a better word, jam a schedule down your throat. We're gonna coordinate it with all members of the team.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, I was just kind of getting my frame of reference mixed up there on tier, so my question's moving back there.
So we've done 3 of these, and I'm assuming you guys have shared the pictures of what had to happen with each one, and like, hey, this one on the first floor, this is what we opened up.
Right.
Fifth floor, this is what we opened up, so on and so forth.
we are familiar
Okay.
with the mock-ups that were done
So you're
Yeah.
coming in
a couple of
informed.
years ago.
Yeah, and it's kind of leading me to thinking of the unanticipated situations of, where, you take a window out and we find, the backup wall is loose and you guys have got to come in and reset some block. So we're gonna run into some situations where, well, yeah, hidden conditions is what it sums up as, and it'll, there may be a little zigzag in the path, may not be exactly straight, but.
And every side of the
Yes.
building's probably gonna be different.
Right,
The
yeah,
good news is we are a masonry contractor. We'll
Yeah.
be doing the masonry at the window sills. So while they're doing the window or take the window out, if there is
yeah,
a circumstance like that, we have skilled people that
yeah,
can resolve that.
yeah, so it
Pretty
should,
quickly.
yeah, shouldn't be too much of a hiccup, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, we're not gonna be all over the building. We're gonna focus on, 4 or 5 tiers and whatever the agreed upon sequence around the building. We're gonna stay and work very closely with the window contractor.
From a risk perspective, like things that could go wrong or whatever. What, maybe from the PM's perspective, what would be the most likely things that we're gonna encounter that maybe we're not thinking about? Of what are the risks that, we should be either from the board's perspective, thinking about the total project, or from an individual owner's perspective? What would be the most likely things that might happen that, that we could know about ahead of time, or, whatever, like, what's the most likely thing that's gonna go sideways?
I would say the biggest challenge on an occupied
challenge could be a
space
way
like
to
this
approach it too.
is just the coordination with wall
Okay.
coverings and stuff like that. As a company, we're very confident in our safety record.
Mhm.
We've actually won national awards for our safety record. We've been in business for 34 years, and our EMR rating, if anybody knows what that is,
Mhm.
is your experience modification factor. And anything under a 1 is good, and anything under a 0.7 is great, and we have a 0.67. So our safety and experience factor is great.
Mhm.
So that's not a concern. It's just working in hundreds of occupied buildings, or occupied condos, I should say.
and I would kind of add to that, just kind of things that can go wrong, things that can go wrong that shouldn't go wrong. I'm sure I know you guys weren't involved with this scenario, none of you, and you wouldn't make this kind of error, but, we often get hired, to come in after, projects go sideways, and there's a window project now in Alexandria that we're working on where for whatever reason, the contractor ended up not applying, not caulking the windows basically. where they were supposed to, and then they caulked over drain holes. So they ended up creating leaks. So that's about the worst case scenario, you can run into.
The risk mitigation of that, if we're doing quality checks.
Right.
And we're doing punch lists in a timely manner, we
Right.
should,
You should avoid
Catch-
anything.
an incidental oversight or an incidental miss during that process, correct?
Right, yeah, and that's just the kind of the example of not, they didn't follow, best practices essentially. And that's what happened. It rarely plays out like that. But just kind of, follow best practices and there's really not much to worry about.
Trust but verify.
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah, pretty much.
So this pay schedule had like the majority of the money going all the way out through November, and then there's some money in December. So the idea there, just looking at it, I'm thinking like, hey, we think we potentially could get this done through November. I'm not holding you to a date, and I'm not holding you to a month. But when we come down to the planning side and we initially sit down for the initial planning, you guys are gonna come with some kind of proposal of like, hey, week of Thanksgiving, we're not gonna do anything after like Tuesday and come back the like following like Monday or Tuesday. And we're gonna build things into that at the beginning, like, cause there's the Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, we want you guys to enjoy your holiday too, but also,
Yeah, holiday season is tough, I agree
Yeah.
with you, and if you've got a full house with company, the less people you want on your, in your condo tearing the window out.
Or moving my furniture around, so.
Yeah. So we understand that, our goal is to get as much done in the August, September, October timeframe. Because of course it starts getting cooler again and whatnot, but we, as you noticed, we have it, we're really kind of heavy in the middle, and that's when the windows are showing up. The window install is about a 5-month deal, so the sooner we can get started and start the lead time process, shop drawings, or the lead times don't start until the shop drawings are approved.
So yes, I'm hearing you guys will come with the initial like, hey, this is how we're factoring the holidays in. And then following question is, would it be better for us to do a bulk buy and buy everything and figure out storage here on site? Or close, or is it better to buy incrementally?
You're buying it all at once and they're manufacturing it.
So they're delivering it incrementally, but it's a bulk buy anyway.
I will say, if you have the ability to, in terms of cash flow and storage here on site, that is something that we certainly see, other customers who have the ability to do that entertain 110%. We're able to get things here, we're able to verify it. If there's anything broken, it can be reordered and it can be refabricated and reshipped.
Before we need it.
timely. Yeah, and also, if anything, it minimizes any risk of material escalation delays because of market volatility and anything like that.
That's why I'm
So
asking.
I'll just bang that, right?
So is
Has there
that
been any
built
market-
into this plan? Or is that
I'm not
something that we
saying
would
that's
have to
terrorist or
add
anything
change
like
about
that.
this plan?
I'm not saying that.
It wasn't in the bid, to answer your question, no market fluctuation. with
And not
that.
market fluctuation, I apologize, the question was asked, like, I'm not even quite sure what the exact scenario here is, but if there's a big bulk buy and then the storage is here, it would be advantageous. I asked, is that in this cost projection, or would that require a completely different cost projection? The scenario, whatever scenario you guys are talking about.
We just haven't got the level of detail. That kind of thing would be talked about during our pre-construction, and we talk about a staging area and stuff like that. I don't know how many sea containers that it would take to order this whole job. but-
No, I don't think it, I'm willing to, talk about that. We've just finished a job where we did exactly that. And it was advantageous for, just us.
Was the juice worth the squeeze? Like, did it make sense, like financially?
I really, when it comes down to it, that's handled on a case by case basis on what kind of real estate do we have here and what can we do, what can we store, and it doesn't make sense for the job. So it's something we'd have to look into and we'd have to discuss and,
Well, we've got all this plentiful parking, guys.
Oh, yeah. Parking's always an issue. It's pool season. Obviously you don't want,
Yeah.
storage containers on your pool deck, that kind of thing. We assumed it was probably gonna ship in,
Typically, we do.
maybe 3 big shipments.
We'll have a delivery in the X amount of storage containers, and then once those, materials are depleted, as they're going in the building, another tractor trailer will come from each manufacturer, replenish that inventory, and, you know, we'll coordinate with the suppliers on this particular size window needs to come on this truck because this is what's going in on their schedule so that we don't have issues in that regard. Other people like to say, hey, I want this now. I want everything here now. I wanna make sure it's here now. I wanna make sure it's right. I want you out there verifying it. We have entertained that in the past. To some customers, it makes sense. To some, they'd rather see it staged out, which is more typical in a window replacement job. Because we don't have this much real estate.
Yeah, no, I think to Kyle's point, there's value in at least looking at the courses of action, right? There's value in at least considering if it's not too much of a lift for you all to look at, say, course of action 1, you do it in the phase delivery, as you explained a few moments ago, sir, or course of action 2, you do it in the everything's delivered here, but that would require X containers, which take up X square footage, so we'd have to figure out where the heck to put them, and, you know, and then we could do a pros and cons, weigh in the cost benefit analysis and the space analysis and all that other impact, and we could make a decision, to Kyle's point, is the juice worth the squeeze? So I think, if possible, I think we're saying we're interested in looking at both options, and then we can go from there if we have time to do that.
All things that, you know, we can discuss here internally and.
Yeah, or even if just we get down to 2 deliveries, you know, and maybe it's, 2 Connex boxes on site and.
There's a lot, there's so many logistical things.
I get,
Yeah.
but the more the more you reduce the logistics, the better the performance.
But in terms of the logistics, I just wanna speak to that. It's not like we can put, I'm just gonna throw numbers out there without going too far into the specifics. You have, say, 6 different size windows, 4 different size doors. I'm going to have 20 of this size, 40 of that size, 30 of that size. So there's going to need to be much larger space to store than there would be, say, if I were to pack everything concisely and pretty a nice package and maximize space, because it can't be done that way because of the type of job it is. So with that said, knocking it down to 2 deliveries is just for sake of argument, probably not going to be feasible just because of the multiple different sizes, configurations, and stuff that has to, the way it has to be installed in the building.
And we don't even know which plant they'll make them from, I'm assuming for the windows.
That wouldn't really matter at all for the windows, and it's only one factory for the doors, so I'm not worried about that at all.
Okay.
In the manufacturing end, there's just a lot of logistical things that need to be defined, to see how many storage containers are we going to need, just for our original plan for windows. To have a couple, 2, 3 deliveries, which would be 3 deliveries of doors, 3 deliveries of windows, so 6 total deliveries. It doesn't require having 20 to go that route to get everything here.
It's gonna take up a lot.
Are we talking 30, 40 seat containers that are 40 feet wide, or are we talking?
Yeah. it's
So
a
that's,
lot.
I mean, it's a lot of logistics that have to be just defined and worked through to see if that, like you said, if it's worth it
Yeah,
to explore.
If it was unrealistic, you can also just say it's unrealistic.
I'm not going to say it's unrealistic until we look further into it, because like I said, a year ago, we ordered 2 16-story towers, delivered it to their job site, but they had a massive amount of asphalt parking that they were able to sacrifice. And they wanted to pay for additional storage containers and to get everything there. It made sense for them. It was nice from a construction team standpoint because we were able to have a lot of time to verify materials and things like that. It did come with a cost. It made sense for them to do it that way, whether or not that was because that was a larger, the company with a larger apartment management group in their properties. Maybe they wanted to do it for financial incentives to pay something, get it here without having it roll over into another fiscal year or something like that. I don't know. But it's certainly something that they really wanted to do and were aggressive about. It's really a building by building, case by case basis that we have.
I think the one factor in my head, and I've done something similar, in a different industry, different kind of work, but it was the same kind of result. That was able to order like a year's worth of product in bulk and actually rent a storage facility just for the purpose of saving the money, and I still made money, renting a facility for a year because I got such a cost savings by buying a year's worth of product at once. So have been there, have done that, understand that there's value, so in my head, while you were talking, I'm like, even if bring us the numbers, especially with the potential tariff stuff coming. If, we can guarantee this price if you buy it all at once, but we gotta come up with storage of X number of containers. Or if you do the 3 deliveries, be prepared. What we need to understand is what's the potential uplift, the unknown, right? The known unknown of this order might cost this much and the second order might cost this much and the third order might be even more or might be less. If that's what you're hearing from who you're buying from, that would be helpful for us to know so that we can try to calculate that. And maybe we get creative on where we have to find to park these things. Maybe it's not here, maybe it's somewhere else, but at least we would have it. So if it weren't for what's going on in the economy right now, I might be a little less paranoid, but I'm a little paranoid right now.
Yeah, I can understand and I completely understand. I'm sympathetic to that. It affects us too, for many projects, but that we've already sold in the past that we're actively in right now. What I can say is we haven't seen anything yet. It's changing so much every day that nothing has been set in stone to where all our manufacturers haven't done it.
I appreciate that.
We don't want to, and we'll do what we can to navigate this as best as possible
Sure.
to insulate our, our customer and you all from that. We just don't have that information right now.
Just
And,
throwing it out there.
but it's something that's always on our mind too. We're gonna put your best interest. We have your best interest in mind all the time. And I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here and then you hired us, but, it is scary. It does turn your stomach a little bit here and there with the uncertainty and everything like that. We understand it. We're in constant daily communication with all of our manufacturers and suppliers for all of our materials. And they don't have their answers yet either.
One question for you, just, when you place the, will you be placing essentially one order for the project?
Yes.
Okay, and with that, then you lock in,
You have the
So,
price.
right, yeah, so I just
that's what
wanna
mean,
make sure,
it's not like
clarify,
I
yeah.
Say now, oh, what we gave you is fictitious, because it's not. That is the manufacturer's price, the tariff question is the unknown variable here. And the manufacturers don't know that yet. They don't know that yet. They don't know if it's, hey, do we have to pay this, once we ship it? Or is there some sort of contingency where, hey, if something's under contract on this date and we ship it, does this not, or are we exempt from that? I have no idea. And that's what I mean, that this just really just those details haven't been defined yet or communicated or set in stone with anybody. And we have winning manufacturers from Poland and Germany that are going in buildings right now. And we also have ones that are coming from the US that are going through, these knee-jerk reaction, hey, here's escalations. You don't have that right now with what we have, price and,
Okay.
has been specified for the job and where we are right now. So we're in a good scenario today.
And just want to just ask for, kind of help clarify one more thing too, that whether you had one shipment show up or 20 shipments, it's all under that same order, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
so,
there's no extra, and that's what I mean. So it's not like if we get this all here now, there's a price break or something like that, or a bulk order. This is a bulk order, it's placed as one order. They're going to manufacture these per our delivery schedule that we
Right.
do.
Yeah.
And our production rate. So when we say 6 openings now, if we can improve on that, increase production, we'll improve the manufacturing production timeline as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But the manufacturer isn't increasing price by
Okay.
doing that. That's what's always done in the window replacement manufacturing
Got it.
process. It's really just the question of tears. We have no idea.
Got it.
We have no clue.
One thing I'll just add to that, just the global market, because we've talked to the Hiltis of the world, a big global company, and Dow Cornings and whatnot. I've had several conversations in the last few weeks. The large international companies knew what was going to be happening after the new administration took place. So what we were told is there was all these threats already that were gonna happen in, say, March. So all these big companies stocked up. They kind of had a 2 or 3 month buffer. So if I'm in an aluminum company, I might have bought more billets of aluminum. If I'm a caulk company, I bought more raw material that goes into my caulk. So a lot of the manufacturers have their warehouses stocked to the brim to sort of absorb this craziness we're experiencing in the last few weeks.
Okay.
Now, today, from what I heard on the news, sitting in traffic, apparently there's 90 days of relief,
Mhm.
which me as an optimist, I think that's great news. Let's get this measured. Let's get the shop drawings, the order released.
Yeah.
Measure. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So my understanding was previously, TDL has gone through and measured every window. So when you guys say we need to come in and measure, you need to get into every unit, you need to get, like, what's that, when you say that?
So they need a different set of measurements, basically. What we had done is essentially, we'd call a rough takeoff, to be able to bid the work, which is getting the, conditions and basic sizes of every window. They're gonna need a set of, I'll call them technical measurements, that they can pass on to the manufacturer.
And so if Chris said the window is 4 feet wide by 5 feet tall, we need to measure that to be, 46 3/4 by, it's to the nearest, say, eighth of an
But-
inch.
Yeah,
But since,
And we're at risk.
But are you
not to
measuring
yell
that
to do that.
in-
yeah.
200 units, or are you measuring that in one in each of the unique sizes of the 6 or 7 size windows that we have?
A couple per tier, so
Oh,
not all, but more than a few.
Yeah, what we'll do is, our approach to this is to take X amount, so say 2 to 3, like Craig had mentioned, and in one tier. That's one drop, whether it's a window or a door or anything. And they might be on floor 2 here, 4 there, 8 there, across tiers, kind of in a wave across the building. And we're gonna look for anomalies. And if we see a lot of consistency, maybe we might get into a couple more units at each tier or something like that, just to have all feel good inside and be very confident. Then we certainly need to get in every floor, to every unit on the top floor and any ground level floor. Because we see a lot of variation there that's atypical from the, in the middle of the building, 2 through 15.
Mhm.
16, yeah, so, as long as, if we do find any anomalies, we increase the amount of measuring we're doing. We need more access. We need to see, hey, is there any variation vertically? Because that really shouldn't be. And from the drawings and the data and all the background, and, the specifications and bid drawings that were provided. I think we're all confident that vertically we look pretty good. It's just really the building settles over time. There is some settling, so there is some variation. We're putting in a perfectly new square opening and an opening that might just be a little off now.
Oh, we're not square.
So.
50 years old.
You're not circles yet either.
far from square.
Far from square.
But, so you see where that might be out of square a little, or there might just be something that we have to account for, it's where we're gonna put something perfectly brand new and made perfectly in a factory on a production line and shipped, because we don't build it here. That's all, manufactured, built and glazed, the glass and everything at the supplier. The doors, we build the frame here, it's assembled here, but again, those panels and the sashes that you can move around, that's all manufactured at the facility. So it's great because it's a closed environment. Very, very little room for error. There's testing, there's a lot of QC, and quality control and assurance that goes on there. So, when it comes down to measuring day, we make sure that we have all the information that we need provided to them, because we can't change it once it shows up. It's not like we can field modify anything to make it work. We need to nail it the first time. And.
Well, I have a file. That's really good. Yeah.
Please share. Yeah.
A question for you about, I forget whether this was TDL or who it was last time. Will you be able to bring out, or somebody be able to bring out a sample window again that we could put in the office? Because I remember last time we had one in the office and it was helpful for people to just go in and see the look and feel of it. It doesn't have to be a full,
Bronze crystal window shouldn't be hard to get, right?
No.
yeah.
No.
What, I mean,
But
we'll
can
look
it be
into
any
whatever.
color is my question.
Yes, yeah, I'm not so worried. Look, if we're gonna get the same color, we're not gonna, I say we wanna, people wanna get the look and feel of it. Does it look and feel like the one we got
One by
today?
two.
Is it
It's a
different?
2x3.
Is the way the latch works different?
Like
Like,
3 samples. I just didn't know. Sometimes
That's what we
people
brought
put
in
a window in a wall
Different
and
manufacturer.
deliver it on a wall. What did you have before? It was just a.
It was just a, I mean, like
Oh my
2x3.
It's like a stand, it just sat on the
it
table.
was on
Yeah.
a stand, yeah.
It was definitely a demo model. It
something-
wasn't
Yeah.
full size.
We have that. I just didn't know if they put it in something.
That was
Just
just
on a
put it on the table.
Just on a stand, people played with it,
About yay big.
slid it
We got
around.
one at the door and.
2 by 3, yeah, 2 feet wide by 3.
Yeah, just to see, how does it work? How does it click in?
I mean,
We'll get that-
surely we're not the first people that have asked for
Not at all.
whatever's normal.
I just didn't know what you had before. Like sometimes people do that in an actual drywall wall.
Oh,
No,
no, just display table level
We'll
stuff.
get a sample of the door and the window.
Yeah.
You can see both.
Yeah, just to see, how does it click, does it feel like my old one, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, not a problem.
Belinda just brought up, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, screen,
Yes.
they will be
Included.
screened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a full screen or a half screen?
At every operable panel, there'll be a screen, so it won't go over the fixed panels.
Okay.
All right, pending any other board questions, we can have some open forum, so residents, if you have a question for our gentlemen, our guests here, or for us, please just, make sure you speak up and identify yourself, and we'll start with Jed, and we'll go to the back.
You spoke about, and there was a lot of discussion about storage of the new windows and the doors. How do you handle the old doors and windows that are being removed? Are they also going to require storage, or they're being removed each day?
They'll go into a 30-yard dumpster. And then once that dumpster's full, it'll be removed and swapped out for.
So we need to account for that dumpster as well.
In our storage area that will.
Our staging area usually will ask for maybe 4 to 6 parking spots worth of space.
Volunteers, anybody? Window treatments, I think it was danced around about, what's around the windows or doors, but what about vertical blinds or window shades and curtains? Are those gonna be removed for us and reinstalled, or are we gonna be responsible for that?
I would say it's gonna vary unit by unit, but it's technically something that we would like you to take care of. There's wall coverings that are inside the opening that definitely need to be taken away, and then there could be curtains above that. Yes, the curtain probably should come down because we don't wanna tear it, cut it, or get dust on it. It's possible that a curtain rod might be able to stay up high, but we would prefer it to come down.
Yeah, I can only speak to my scope. Because I don't know the type of interior work, how much room is needed with that, finishing work, the drywall, things like that. That's back to Lindman, how much they're gonna need to do there.
Our intent is the wood trim that's going back new will cover whatever.
Oh, yeah, but that treatment would
So
probably be
it's
attached to the existing.
Yeah, it depends on where it's attached.
There's some of it there, yeah, I know there's some that where wood trim has been put in and it's attached to that, obviously that trim's gonna come out,
Right.
so.
So like that right there, that's in the way of the door, so.
Yeah, so if something's attached to the white, generally white, and if something's attached to the white box, it's obviously has to be removed because the box is getting.
Yes.
But in
Yes.
that case, if that was in my unit, would I need to remove that?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's just a good point of reference for the community.
That
And you-
shouldn't have to get removed because it's not attached to the white box. That's just,
Well, hold on, we're gonna alternate here between, so let's go to, Melina, did you have a question from Zoom? Then then there was the person in the back, then we'll come back to the Zoom caller.
So Miss Tanya was speaking.
Oh, okay, sorry. Please continue, ma'am.
Could this is on Zoom. I'd just like to ask this, I'm still confused about the hardware. Can you come in and show each unit and show us if all the hardware has to come off?
Oh, the hardware for the window treatments, the clips and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all has to come off, right? I mean, anything that is attached to or immediately adjacent to the box that contains the window, it's unavoidably has to be removed.
On the window, and then alternatively, the door, depending on whether anything was done or not. I mean, I always err on the way of caution. A lot of people spend a lot of money on their window treatments. These aren't cheap, at least they aren't most of the time. And, there is going to be heavy construction and demolition going on in that immediate work area. When we say 5 feet, move things away from it 5 feet. Needing a window treatment or a bracket or a track within that 5 feet is subject to getting damaged, and we're just saying that, why take that risk?
Yeah, for a few screws, it's not worth it.
Yeah, so we always suggest, removing them. It's better being safe than sorry. They're not a cheap thing to replace.
All right, man in the back.
Hi, to clarify, as far as like working on each tier, for instance, I'm in 12, so the window and the balcony is here, and then around on the other side are the windows for the bedroom. So, when you work on it, do you just do one side and then maybe 5 floors that particular day? And then go around the side of the building and do those same 5? Or do you go from the top to the bottom or bottom top, whichever? Because if I have to move things, say out of the living room into the bedrooms to give you enough space, then I want to know when I had to move everything out of the bedroom into the living, and would there be some kind of lead time in between? So that, for instance, I take down my blinds in the living room, but I still have blinds in my bedroom. I don't particularly, I get dressed in my bedroom, so I want to have something up, after I move those shades, then I just get dressed in the living. So.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it all depends on, I think you said maybe it sounds like you're on like the corner side of the building, so it really just depends on how, whatever that phasing plan gets finalized, how your unit specifically will be affected. But like we said earlier, if it's one of those where you're kind of caught on both sides in the middle of a phase, we can accommodate on a case-by-case basis, specifically if you need to have one room set aside for you to take care of your daily needs, and then kind of go, on the other side. That might be one where we might need to split that tier in half, essentially do one side first and the other side, not have it kind of overlap all at the same time, just to make sure that you guys are able to have some form of normal use of your unit. And again, that's all gonna come down to, communication with me and the board and the representatives for the project team as well. We'll give you plenty of time to accommodate.
All right,
I have one question from Zoom.
go ahead, sir.
I have a question. I've never heard anything about the choice or quality of the windows themselves. Of all the different bids that we've heard about the total cost, but not the quality of the windows. Are there choices? Was it intermediate level? Are we going to get a window that's less quality than the windows we have now in terms of leaks or temperature control?
That was the entire last meeting.
I can address that real quick if you want.
Go ahead.
So basically all there's a set of technical engineering specifications that we prepared, that essentially sets the bar, says, what grade windows, need to be installed. So all bidders were bidding based on the same standards. So there's no difference in quality, between, any of the bids.
Okay,
But I think the question was the quality of that standard that you set.
Yeah.
So you set a standard that is at a level for a commercial, for the building.
Right.
The the number, the height and, you know, the wind resistance you need for the 16th floor, blah, blah, blah. You went to some sort of industry best standards for,
Yeah, so building, getting into kind of the technical side, essentially, there's, the building code references certain, engineering standards requirements, wind load design requirements, something called ASCE 7. Following those procedures, you basically determine the performance grade, call it PG, essentially how much pressure a window can handle. And that also defines essentially leak standards, how much water is allowed to come in, water infiltration, air infiltration. Those are all defined by the building code. The windows that we recommended are based on essentially the outcome of that analysis. And actually, I believe the windows, the test data from the window manufacturer, I believe actually exceeds the requirements. So, that is, there's every bidder is bidding on that same performance grade essentially. And there's also another layer of quality assurance on it. In the contract, there's a provision, or in the specifications, which are part of the contract, a provision to do water infiltration testing after one window and one door have been installed. And that essentially verifies that the installation method works, that water is not getting in. So that's, the windows are they essentially factory evaluated. And this field evaluation evaluates them as they're installed, or as a small sample of them is installed. So that's kind of the nutshell.
does that answer your question on the phone or on the Zoom?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Oh, yes, sir.
What if the unit owner or the resident is not available during this process? On one level, next level, and say, oops, we can't, how do you access the unit when the resident is not there?
A good question. I'm not sure what the bylaws really say. We'll have weeks and months of notice. So I would hope if somebody has an issue, maybe you're out of town or in the hospital or wherever, that possibly while we're there, we could get in with an escort or something.
Yeah, the association has right of access for construction and or other situations that affect the building.
We'll create a schedule so people, an estimate so that people know when you guys are gonna go into that unit, what day. That you're gonna enter that unit.
Yeah,
so.
or someone just might be on vacation and wants to say, in advance, hey, I'm not gonna be here on this day.
I'm gonna take my dog and go somewhere else.
Then Chris, let's say the day you come to my unit, do I need to be there, or I just tell Melina, you all can go in? Do I have to stay if I am there?
We don't need you to stay. We prefer to have, somebody give us an escort in. We're not in a practice of just going in. So it would be a team approach. I'm not sure how many staff you have, Melina.
But I don't have to be there the whole time. I can let you when I can go and come back at the end of the day. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, for example, a resident's got a unit for sale. And they've already moved to Florida or anywhere else.
Very common
The
concept.
only access would be through the real estate agent. For example, how do you all deal with that?
I'll go through the association. The association have rights for construction. We'll have an escort go in there.
Okay.
All right, in the interest of time, we'll just take maybe one more of each type of question and then we'll wrap up. So online question first.
So I have, first floor question. would like to confirm that any windows and patio doors that are taken out are they replaced the same day, the first floor, the first level?
Our intent is certainly remove and replace the same day.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can I do one quick one, since that was short?
Quick hit.
The next one, how do we deal with storm doors and storm windows? Is the owner supposed to arrange to remove the storm doors and windows, or store them inside the unit? So I guess.
There's no
when
reason
you
to,
guys get ready to start, I guess, are you gonna be wanting to place these?
well, first, there's no reason to keep storm windows. They would be integral to the existing ones that are being removed. Storm doors, I personally wouldn't want to reinstall it on a brand new, nice quality sliding door that we're putting in. I don't know if you would,
I think that question kind of comes from the experience of many people having over the years to put sort of jerry-rigged
Yeah.
solutions. But I think the bigger message that I'm hearing from you is none of that will be necessary with these. I mean, storm windows will be a moot point because we're gonna have brand new,
it'll be
weather
a
grade.
modern unit that won't leak,
Yeah.
the low E glass, high efficiency.
So they do have to
smooth
go.
operating.
They do have to go. There's just no reason for them to go back on.
But would
Right.
the follow-on question be, will you all help us to remove those and dispose of those, or is it that an owner's responsibility like the window treatments?
I'd say yes, that'll come off.
Yeah, I think-
When we're
I think
doing.
I think it's in somewhere in there, it's in part of the demo, basically.
Yeah, I've seen something to the effect of storm windows.
Yeah,
I can't imagine there's many storm doors.
you'd be surprised.
Okay. Okay.
But they're all, I mean, they're all pretty,
There was just, it was for removal.
yeah.
There was no reinstallation
No.
on there.
No.
Yeah.
Right, so.
That's all, I
That's
think
what
that's all
I'm
we're
saying, there's no
asking. I
reason.
think that's all we're
Yeah.
asking.
Okay, to put it back.
Is removal. Another thing, just from a in the unit question, what's the anticipated, I get wind, but what's the anticipated dust from the drilling and cutting and whatever? And what is your technique, or what is your experience in how you minimize the impact to the unit of, dust and impact to drywall and cutting and things like that?
I'd say the dustier work is probably our work with the masonry. And we'll do that first before the window and door comes out. And then we'll get the window and door in, and then we'll put the brick road lock back.
I agree. Typically, it really all depends on, is it a windy day, is it pollen outside, things like that, I mean,
You can control that.
Actually.
Okay.
It's not like you're coming in and hanging plastic.
0 degrees.
Pollen
Doing a
abatement.
lot of driveway, I would hopefully not, but.
Hopefully not.
So it's not like you're coming in and hanging plastic and quartering off the areas that say, hey, expect dust. We're gonna try to make it as dustless as possible, but anticipate having to dust and vacuum
Okay,
at post completion.
throwing it out there for discussion.
And you guys, I mean, your vacuums and grinders and such and
Yes.
OSHA standard jazz. Yeah.
Correct, there is a sort of standard.
Yeah.
2019 that we follow.
Yeah.
All right, we can take one more question from the floor and then we'll close it out. Going on. All right, so thank you, folks, and we'll work on getting that, demo. Next steps and action items, this is for all of us, including our guests, because we want to, make our communications clean and clear. So I think for us, and I'm gonna just kind of think out loud for a second, we're gonna get this over to legal, right? Obviously, you're gonna get a full legal review on this. So then that's something we're gonna do on our end. I think the other end we're gonna do on our end is kind of get a finer point on what Alex was proposing and, and then, what else do I have here? So legal review happened concomitant to us sort of furthering our finance discussion, which is our business on our end. And then we meet again in 2 weeks' time. And I don't know yet whether, we're gonna be in a position at that meeting necessarily. I'm not sure whether we're gonna be able to entertain a motion to, formally approve, but we do meet every 2 weeks. We can meet if we were resolved to do something and we were in between, we can convene on 3 days' notice. Just FYI, so we don't have to confine
Or
it.
vote remotely or.
Yeah,
something
then we have
like that.
remote votes if we all agree. So we have some nimbleness there. In general, we meet every other week though until we get to the point where we're, authorizing, signing a contract and, obviously for us concomitant to that is whatever our financing solution is on our end. So we do see this coming to a head within, a single digit weeks potentially.
Yeah, I was gonna, sometimes, I don't know if you have a single lawyer you work with and
yeah,
maybe they're in
generally.
court and they're tied up and do you anticipate?
Well, I mean,
A
it's
fairly
always
quick
possible,
review.
but Kristen is our, our lawyer. She specializes in community associations, but there is a team. So I mean, I would, they have a practice division on community association. So if she had a big piece of litigation, I'm sure she could push it to somebody else.
And we're just hopeful that there'll be some kind of hopefully a notice to proceed in the next, say, 2 to 4 weeks for the field measuring and
Understood.
the permit process, because there's a lot of time up on the front end.
Yeah, for sure.
So you bring up a good point, Chris. I think when we talk to legal, we might need to figure out, notice to proceed and a signed contract. It's like potentially we can get something to get things like we might not have all the details worked out, but we can get some of the details enough to say, yes, go ahead and engage or whatever, come start measuring. So potentially there's like a gray area there in the middle,
That's,
which is, I think, what
yes,
am I close?
we've definitely done that before. If the intent is there to the point the association, well, wants to issue a letter of intent, that can release us to start field measuring, to apply for the permit. You can even cap a letter of intent, say $25,000
Right.
or whatever. You're not
Yeah.
signing a multi-million-dollar contract, but it just allows us to work concurrently with your process.
You don't have to answer this now, but what would you need to do the measuring as far as a dollar value? If you can get that to Melina, just like, hey, letter of intent, this much
Mhm.
threshold is what we need.
That would help.
This middle shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I do have a
If you
schedule
could maybe
value.
get that to us soon. That's what we can potentially, I think what we're in our heads, some of us are, we can know that, we can move forward with that, make sure our legal knows that. The sooner we can
Okay.
get that to you. I think
That
we're
would
all
help.
very sensitive, every one of us in the room are very sensitive to the time.
Mhm.
We're sensitive to the fluctuation of the market, et cetera, et cetera.
And we're
So
talking
the
about the
sooner we can,
holidays
the
and-
holidays and everything else,
Yeah.
so if we can lean forward, get that letter of intent, get the measurements started, then we can work out if the lawyer takes an extra day to look at it before we can get you a fully signed contract.
That won't affect things.
We wanna be, okay.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
for
good.
the letter of intent, whatever dollar amount you estimate over, I mean, that's something, as you said, that we can, provided all 5 of us agree, we can actually do in an email vote the same day and then just ratify it after.
Okay.
So we can be very nimble on that potentially. Okay, so those are kind of the tracks, I mean, for the whole community and our partners here. Thanks for coming, thanks for your time and your expertise and your candor on answering all the
Thanks for having us. It's always good to meet face to face.
Yeah, no,
It's always better.
I agree. I'm 150% in agreement with that. It's always best to just talk around the table. So yeah, so that's the direction we're going. Melina, if you wouldn't mind just getting this over to Kristen, the draft.
The one from, or not, I mean,
TDO.
TDO.
Oh, the TDL and the main draft contract here. So, yep, and so that will be going forward. If we need to meet specially within the next 2 weeks, we'll either notice something or do an email vote. Other than that, if there's no further business of the board, we'll call it adjourned at 8:14 PM. Thank you for a really good meeting, everybody.
We give legal.
We